Oh,
Okay, so the two people that actually care about the podcast have showed up on
well,
time.
we got 2 minutes,
We
to
got 2
talk
minutes.
about Cheesecake Factory. We were just there. I was just there.
So Vitaly actually got cheesecake.
Yeah.
And you got banana cream pie?
It's like banana cream pie, cheesecake,
So you
something
got
like that.
cream pie today.
I got cream pie, yeah. By the Cheesecake Factory.
Well, have you tried other cheesecakes before?
You know what? I went. I had two favorite desserts. One was what was it called? The strawberry shortcake. I don't know if you ever had it. It's like a biscuit dessert there.
It's great.
And the second one was tiramisu. So I would just like for years it'd just be those two desserts. And then I was like, you know what? I'm sick of those two. And then I went on a whole cheesecake thing, trying like 10 different cheesecakes they had. And I recognized that my two favorite desserts are still my two favorite desserts.
Yeah, I'm hard to switch from a dessert, bro. Because dessert you want to enjoy, right? Like you don't want to have a bad experience. So
Right.
that's the thing about going out to eat, right? Like the cost of trying something new at the expense of finally going out and enjoying the meal. It's a big opportunity cost. It's a big trade-off.
Yeah. Is Chris joining us early, or is he also? I think Carlos is going to be late.
Carlos might be a little late tonight, but Chris should be here soon.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll wait for Chris. I'm going to share a video. My wife played. I bought a tennis VR game today, and you have to experience these kind of games. So I just filmed a little bit of her playing. So I don't know if she wanted me to show, but I'll show a little bit of her actually playing. She punched me in the stomach
on the Oculus
during one of them.
What did she do on one of them?
Well, you're swinging when you're playing tennis. You're swinging all over. So I almost got clocked once, and then she actually just uppercutted me.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. Brad, what's up? James, what's up? John Sarge, Technical Trader Wong, Zocol, Dahad, Matt Money, Cameron Vincent, Star Buccaneers, Philip Rizzo, Johnny. Johnny's gonna have me buy an Enovix, bro. I'm thinking of.
I think Johnny's mission is to make everybody buy Enovix.
Johnny sent me a $20 super chat like a long time ago, and he was like, "Buy Enovix with this." And every time he's like, "Did you buy Enovix?" I'm like, "No, I haven't done it yet. I guess I got to do it. I got to do it." Bailey, what's up? Dennis, what's up? TJ.
Well, Johnny's on our Discord, and he's actually a Patreon member. He's like, Vitaly, I'm not getting any value from Freelancer Finance. And I'm like, dude, we do 5 podcasts a week now. But he considers Finance Junkies totally different than like Freelancer Finance. I'm like, I don't know. We're all there.
He's like, I want freelance finance content. I want Vitaly Carlos Patreon paywall content. I want Finance Junkies content. I want what I paid for.
Right. I want what I paid for, and I don't care about it. So I'm like, all right, just take over the Discord, dude. Here, he wants to have stock talks in the Discord. We have like a talking section.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I made it available to all the Patreon members to actually, if they want to talk about anything, they can.
You know, we do 5 pods a week, and like I think it's the right way to grow if we want to have longevity. Like I was just watching some clips of Regis and Kelly. If you remember that show.
Yeah.
And that show went on for like 40 years, and they had different guests and stuff, but like they were there every morning.
Not 40, but a long time. Yep, absolutely.
It's like I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can create content in this day and age and not do it at least 4 to 5 times a week, and even have a shot at being successful. And when I mean successful, like I guess develop a community, et cetera, right?
I agree, but there is a guy, I forgot his name. Is it Tram? The guy who does one video a month. It's very detailed finance videos.
Correct.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I have seen their videos a while ago.
And also Mark Rober. I just watched a Mark Rober video. So he does 12 videos a year. That's it.
But Mark Rober does like experiments and shit, right? Like science.
Yes,
stuff.
he does. But I'm saying like he does complicated videos that take a long time to make. But once he makes it, you get millions of views on that because it's such good content. Like nobody's making his kind of content. You know?
But like, so let me ask you a question. Let's say you were trying to be the next Mark Rober. Do you think you could make just that good of a video and hope the algorithm does its job 12 times a year? Because I think that's a really big risk.
I think if you make really good content, I mean, we're lucky, we're talking about something that's interesting to some people, but our content is sort of throwaway. So the problem is
100%.
After you watch this video, everybody watches it. They're not like coming back next week and watching it again. So a Mark Rober video, but hold on, a Mark Rober video, if I come back a year from now, I can watch that video again.
Agreed. But if we are good at what we do, we will be relevant in a year and we'll be able to talk about what's going on in a year. Like, I guess there's 2 modes to it. Either you do the Mr. Beast, this crazy challenge, and it lasts for 5 years, maybe, right? But at least a year or something. Or you're on top of your game enough because you just love the process of doing it, where you're on every night. And I think it's more easier if you're a new content creator to do the second, be on every night, because you can control it. You can work hard, but like trying
You
to
can
create something
grind it out.
phenomenal.
You can grind it out.
Yes.
And there are a lot of YouTubers who just grinded it out. I mean, no offense to the old timers, but all those guys that are super famous, even meet Kevin and I'm forgetting his name, but Jeremy, all those guys is because they were grinding it. They were doing it all the time. It wasn't like that. It was anything special in terms of the
100%.
content, but they were just doing it daily. So there is something to that. But I would like to be the kind of creator, because I'm a cinematographer too, that has a piece of content that can outlive me.
Yes. And I've felt this very deeply in my soul, this idea that you could create timeless content. Hello, Christopher Patel. That timeless content that outlive. This is why I'm in love with, musicians, because Michael Jackson's Thriller will last forever.
Exactly.
Right? But it's like, in order to become the next Michael Jackson, there's like a trillion pieces of content posted every day. So if you want to become a musician or a rapper, you got to fucking figure out how to get that song out there. You can make the best song in the world, but if it doesn't go anywhere, it's stuck, right?
And but as soon as it does,
but how does it get there? That's a big if. If it does, you got to make a million TikToks or something. Like, you got to do something quantitatively, I'd imagine. Otherwise, the song's stuck on Spotify. Spotify gets 60,000 songs.
Look, I agree with you there, but once you have a great song, and if you are able to get people to recognize it, that song will live on, and people will sing it 20 years from now. Once again, the problem with what we're doing is that this content is throwaway, and I've always had a problem with throwaway content because I'm in the film business.
Yes.
And I shoot a lot of throwaway content. And in fact, I had to quit my job, like quit being a DP for these types of shows that I shoot. It's a lot of like crime drama shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with documentary, with recreations, documentary parts. And they're so formulaic that it became so boring and tedious that, I feel like at some point anyone can do it, and it's just been done 1,000 times. So I think at some point, all of us here have to transition to something bigger than just daily discussions of the same old thing.
Well, see, I would agree with that, but the problem is we're in the news business, essentially.
And the news business. I would say you are, yes.
No, but all of us are. Like, if you can't talk about Enphase's price action from, forget 3 days ago, 3 seconds ago.
If you watch,
talk about it now, right?
I do want to point out the best videos me and Carlos did on Freelancer Finance is the ones we talk to like installers and talk to people who are like building out and using the products. Has nothing to do with the stock or the price action or the daily fluctuations.
But those only go so far in terms of growth. That's what I mean, right?
You're right about that. You're right about that. But those have a staying power that a year from now, I bet you people will come back as Enphase grows. They will watch those videos again because they'll see that there's a community getting built up that I basically started with Carlos.
But that community doesn't stay unless there's content at least every other day. You know what I mean? Like,
you have a point. I'm not.
You have those pillar like my IBM video with Sean, 30,000 views, great for the Palantir community. But if I only put that one video out and it gets 30K once, it's like, all right, well, what's the next Palantir video, right? Like, how do you actually develop that community? That's the problem with being in a news-driven world. Chris, how are you doing today? How's your weekend?
Good, man. I just woke up not too long ago. Got work tonight, so yep. I got in on the back half of your conversation. I agree. I mean, none of what we're making is long-tailed. It's pretty much just consume in a very short period of time, and then it becomes irrelevant. Anything that we say today, by next Wednesday, it's already like over, So unfortunately for our viewers, if you're not continuously watching, that's one of those things that, you're going to be a little bit behind on some of the stuff. I do think there's a little bit more value in what we're doing as compared to someone who's just creating a video dissecting one company over a long term or anything like that. In that, companies are fluid and they're dynamic. A lot of the truths that are held today may not exactly pan out next week or the week after that. I mean, that's just how the digital age is. Like, the economy moves quicker than ever before. So, I think there's a lot of value in everyone who follows us and comes and joins us and, materially like participates in some of the conversations we have. And my thing is, I'm hoping that we're teaching people how to think a little bit differently about investing rather than just thinking, hey, if I just hold this index of stocks, that'll be it and that's all I have to do, which is, believe it or not, is the safe way to do it. But there's also some areas where I think we're actually teaching people like, hey, when you're looking at a company, don't just look at X, Y, and Z. You should also look at, this. My biggest thing that I would probably, in my opinion, that I've been able to reach out to some of the people is, you can love a company, but always keep in mind that there is a macro condition that company is living with. And so in the short term, that macro condition may play big headwinds. I think a lot of times people just look at a company and say, I really like this company because this company is doing X and it's doing Y and it's doing this. But you ask them like, okay, well, what about in the short term? Like, why is it slowing down its business so much? And it's like, well, no, it's still a good company. I'm like, I agree. But what, like, how are they challenging the narrative right now? How are they building upon their business in this trying time? Are they going to be able to survive this negative downturn? Or has the hype gone too far with this and this industry is just overly bought right now? Like, which one do you think it is? And that's where I think a lot of people don't really, especially in the retail community, don't necessarily have a thesis because they don't have the time to really deep dive into their macro conditions a little bit. And they essentially just invest based on the stock in the company, and that's it. And then they get bought out. They sell out during these really bad times without understanding what the reasoning behind it is. Like, a good example is Enphase. You saw Enphase come from 330 down to almost 150.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's transition to Enphase to get into it. Enphase is back at 180.
Guys, I didn't do it. I didn't tell him to talk about Enphase.
No,
I think Enphase.
Chris was thinking wait till 140, 130-ish, and you warned all of us, Vitaly. You were like, I don't know if it gets there. Now, it could have gone either way, but Chris,
this is
what
why
is your reaction?
I was buying. I just kept buying.
And
Chris,
I think Vitaly's right in that there are certain price targets that you should have, but I think he did it the smart way where it was like, okay, regardless, Vitaly said it, look, it could go to 130, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to buy at 160. 160 is a good number to buy at. Me, I have a price target of 150. I haven't pulled the trigger.
It was like 155, by the way. It was like...
No, but I haven't pulled the trigger because the macro conditions haven't improved enough for me to say, hey,
the lowest
listen,
I got was
152.88
on May 2nd.
152,
right.
Yeah. So the lowest it got to was 152. For me, I'm looking at it more along the lines of, hey, what are the macro headwinds like right now? Me, I'm waiting until the Fed gives a more clear indicator that they're going to be cutting interest rates, because the minute they're cutting interest rates, I think this company has the ability to slingshot much higher, right? The only thing that worries me is flat quarter-over-quarter growth, which happened last quarter, which is the reason why they got punished from 300 down to 150 in the first place, right? If you look at it on a year-over-year basis, they're still doing gangbusters, but quarter-over-quarter, the numbers didn't look that great. It was only a single-digit growth between the two quarters. That could be very seasonal, which is completely understandable, but at the same time, I'm looking at the macro conditions and I'm seeing that businesses that require consumer credit are facing a lot of headwinds. So that's why my price target for Enphase in the short term would be 150 and below. And it could still go below 150 and below. But I think if you really are trying to get into this company and you believe long term it's a good play, and at the same time you don't have other companies that are willing to give you the kinds of returns, then by all means, this is the perfect time to start dollar cost averaging into a company like this. For me right now, my portfolios has shifted more into a lot of defensive plays because I'm like, okay, the market, and we could talk about that a little bit more.
Vitaly, what do you think about your boy Puru? He's in Enphase.
Who is Puru?
You don't know Puru? He's like 300,000 Twitter. He's like a big Twitter finance dude. But microinverters.
Let me just respond to at least Chris for a second. I still think there's a chance. Hold on a second. I still think there's a chance that Enphase can go to 130. I mean, there's nothing to say that, because Q2 is still a problem where if their growth is negative even, right? I'm estimating around 2%, 1%, somewhere there, just based on the last 5 years of Q2 history, around 2%. That's what the estimate is. But if it goes under that and it doesn't beat the market, and usually Badri is pretty good at beating the market in terms of like the estimates. But if he's not this time in Q2, there's a big chance the rates are having a much more bigger effect, which I think is very possible. And the stock will collapse to whatever, 130, maybe even 100. But all I'm saying is that would be the biggest opportunity you have, at least of this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. If not the next 4 years of Enphase. So
yeah, I agree.
At least this year, that is your opportunity. If you are waiting and on the sideline, just have your buy orders, whatever they are.
All right, I guess let's transition to some macro. Chris, futures are down. Fed might signal a pause in June, which is what we think we're getting. I know you said last Thursday you feel like things are getting up there in terms of frothy valuations. S&P hit 425.50 or 2023 all-time high, and NASDAQ went above 13,000. Do you think you're in for a good week or a bad week? This week?
I think the Fed is not done raising. Actually, I'm taking it back. I think the jobs numbers are a little too strong for their
That was hot.
liking.
You want to talk about the jobs numbers for everybody who didn't see it?
Yeah, their jobs numbers came in hot again. Labor is very tight right now, which means that inflation might end up becoming a lot more stickier. That's a bad thing. So the Fed, regardless of what we want in the economy, is more than likely the type that's just erring on the side of caution, and they may end up saying, you know what, we're going to throw another quarter basis point at this. We're not going to relent unless we see the meaningful improvement. Even though I think their numbers have a lot of lag to them, we have a problem. This labor number is just not a friend to the Fed, and so the Fed is going to, more, in my opinion, the chances of a rate rise has gone up. But this is how the market works, right? When you have numbers, the Fed will react after those numbers. So even if you have a prediction, this is why you have to tune in almost every day to the commentary, because our opinions can change. Last week, I was pretty bullish in saying, hey, I think the Fed is done. I don't think they're going to raise rates anymore. But looking at those job numbers, I'm pretty sure that now it gives them cover to hit another quarter basis point. So, which is not good for equities, by the way,
Yeah, no, I agree. If they continue to raise even one more time, it'll be maybe a hit, but honestly, I think everybody knows it's over. So at this point, it's saving face. Is that what they're trying to do? Which is sort of ridiculous. Because the real rates for people are, I think it's 5%, the Fed funds rate or so, but for people, it's like 7, 8, 9%.
Yeah.
So that's already pretty high considering just the history. Not 20 years ago, obviously, it was around there, but I'm talking about the last 10 years. It's pretty high. So I think they've done their job. They've destroyed inflation. That's done. So what are we at now right now, Chris? I haven't been keeping up, but are we almost at 3.5, 4? Are we almost there?
For unemployment?
No, not unemployment, for the actual inflation numbers.
Based on their data, close to like 4. And I think the last one was 4 and some change, but let me double check.
Either way, we're talking about we're on a steep decline. We were at, what was it, 8, 9?
In June last year. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of crazy. That's already,
Yeah.
These are massive drops that are happening. So even Home Depot is suffering now. Okay. So even quality companies are now suffering, and people have scaled back. I'm not sure if housing is suffering yet, like Chris is waiting for, or he's waiting for rates to come down. Either way, that inflation is sort of dead, in my opinion. The supermarket, I could say it's still a little bit more expensive just going there, but I see it all stabilizing in the next 6 months, year.
Okay.
The April numbers were 4.9. So unfortunately, they were actually a lot more flat than further down. Like if you look at can you pull that up?
Is that why they want to raise the quarter?
Well, no, it's probably because core PCE, the numbers minus some of the more fluctuating things, that's still staying elevated. So the metric that they go by is not just regular CPI. Like, everyone likes to look at the CPI number, but they look more on the core PCE side. And core PCE is relatively sticky. So that's the part that's giving them a little bit of pause and a lot more like, hey, are we really done with raising rates just yet? Now, the thing is, the only thing preventing this from happening, like them going even further after this, because some of them were actually talking about 2 quarter basis rises back to back, like Bullard, but I think Bullard is like an Uber hawk, is that the credit conditions might start to show some leakiness in the general economy. What
does that mean? What did that mean?
So if you keep tightening, you're going to have the SVBs of the world and the regional banking crisis and stuff like that. A lot of times, until you really the way that it usually works is they're breaking shit until something breaks. I mean, they're doing this until something breaks, and then later on they'll come in and provide the liquidity to do coverage. But the thing is, you don't know what's going to break, where there are leaks in the pipe until you put some water through the system. So that's what they did. They essentially, with these rate rises, they put water through the system, and now we identify where the leaks are. The leaks were commercial real estate. The leaks were in regional banks that had overexposure to long duration assets, and some of the other non-traditional things that are out there. Like right now, the biggest challenge, in my opinion, in terms of headwind, is probably commercial real estate, because there's a lot of commercial real estate out there that was financed during times of really low interest rate, And so now a lot of those commercial real estate properties are coming onto the market to do refinancing, and they're going to have to refinance at much higher rates with much lower occupancy. So who takes the hit on that? And majority of the time, it's usually goes equity takes the hit, and then preferred mezzanine take a hit, and then after that you have unsecured that'll take a hit, and then you'll have secured debtors that'll take a hit. Usually the banks are in the best position, which is the bottom of the tranches, but even they might be affected to a certain degree. But yeah.
Okay. I guess we transition to the pretty important event that's happening tomorrow, WWDC. What are your expectations for Morgan Stanley raised their price target from 170 to 190 for Apple. They seem to be getting more excited that Apple is going to introduce something that really is revolutionary. I was watching the iPad conference last night from 2010 just because I wanted to get a feel of it again, and it was an overstretched fat iPhone, and Apple turned it into like the most glorious thing on the planet. So, do you think Tim Cook can pull one out of his hat and really make this VR headset a killer for Apple? Vitaly, we start with you.
I actually hope they will. I don't think the $3,000 price target is great for consumers. First of all, that's early adopters are going to get it, but how can it be a hit at $3,000 a unit?
By the way,
So,
it might be lower than that because what they did with the iPad, people thought it would be $1,000. It came in at $499. So that might be a rumor Apple started so that they can surprise.
So maybe it's going to be hopefully $1,000 and compete with the Pro,
correct,
the Quest Pro, which I'm
correct.
totally fine with. I keep saying we need Meta cannot be the only one in this race converting everybody to the metaverse. That's untenable. It's like having one company on the internet.
Yeah,
it's idiotic. Okay, you need a lot of players, you need a lot of people, a lot of developers, a lot of people making games, making apps, making whatever, VR experiences, virtual tours in houses, Zillow working on it. You need all of these companies involved. Otherwise, it never happens. So we need Apple to come up with a good product that is affordable, maybe $1,000 to start at least, I'm hoping. Then that's more affordable. Then people can decide on, do you want a Quest Pro or an Apple thing? But as far as Meta losing market share, if that's what we're going to discuss, Meta's going to release a $500 device, the Quest 3 coming out. So no matter what, there's going to be a big audience for that, no matter what. Okay. And we hope Apple also has a big audience, because I'm telling you, more developers means a bigger ecosystem. It's not a bad thing for anybody.
Okay. Chris, your thoughts on if WWDC is as revolutionary as it could be?
Yeah, I think so. I've been more on the side of looking at some of the developments around VR in terms of how AI is going to play into it. So I think the development costs of a lot of these video games is going to drop significantly. Like, so back when you were developing a video game or any sort of environment, like let's say you wanted to do something along the lines, you'd have to sit there, you'd have to get people to do X, Y, and Z to basically create this world. And it takes a lot of time and labor and effort to do it. And I think with all the new developments around AI, because I was really tracking NVIDIA and their presentations on this week in Computex, and one of the craziest things was just how easy it is to build worlds now, and build environments and do video games. The rendering costs are much lower. Like the creativity, the cost of creativity has gone down significantly. If you guys look at like what's the thing on Discord. God damn it, I can't believe I'm forgetting right now. But basically, the cost of development is going down significantly, which means that Midjourney, yes. So the cost of development around the metaverse, if you want to call it, the metaverse, because I'm sure Apple's going to call it something else, is going to go down. And because it's going to go down, it's going to bring this industry to more people so that more people can afford it, and developers can actually afford to produce games and make a profit while still, because that's the key, right? If developers can't
point
make
out
money,
that what this is going to do, so everybody thinks everybody's job's going away. Instead, it's going to just explode the amount of people making actual games, because now one person or two people can make an A title or something competing with an A title game, as opposed to having 100 developers do it. I think it turns a normal developer, even a 10x developer, into a 1000x developer or 100x developer.
Agree.
So it's not going to, the jobs, look, they might compress. Maybe Google doesn't need as many engineers at the end of the day because they have too many already. And then they're not going to be hiring anybody. But I bet you anything, the number of startups, and in fact, the VC capital coming into the whole field, especially AI, is exploding. That capital is going crazy. So the number of developers that they're still going to need is kind of insane. That's not getting less. I think we'll need more developers. They're just going to spread out into like a whole plethora as opposed to one company or two companies controlling it.
So I think someone wrote bye bye animators and digital illustrators. I think
Yeah,
that's wrong.
That's not true.
I think that's really wrong in that I think their jobs are going to become way more meaningful because they'll be able to use a lot of these tools to build more and do more with less.
I want to give
You know, that-
give a concrete example actually. So let's say Amit, who couldn't afford a 3D animator in his startup, all of a sudden, well, at least a team of animators, all of a sudden, he'll get a cheaper guy who now has 10x potential to do something. So now Amit will have in Odea somebody animating stuff, somebody doing graphics or things that he would have never thought about doing on a small budget. All of a sudden, he'll have the opportunity to do it. And how many businesses are there that can do this kind of stuff? It's going to explode. I'm telling you, there's going to be more animators, more creators. It's going to go crazy. The difference is the big companies will scale back. They will not need 10,000 more employees. They will scale back and their growth might actually stagnate in terms of hiring, but their productivity will increase as well.
Yeah. It's like Instagram. When Instagram came out, everyone in the world had a platform to advertise their little small business. Just like with AI, every company in the world has an ability to create beautiful photos to post on Instagram to advertise their business.
The other thing is hardware is finally starting to catch up to making VR more palatable. One of the things that always, like, I have a VR headset and I don't use it as much anymore. My brother-in-law, I gave it to him and he loves it, but basically, you know, it's a cumbersome product to put on. You have to limit yourself on where you are. You know, if you stay, for me, I get headaches. Like if I'm in it for longer than 40 minutes, I start to get headaches, which means that now the next time I put it on, my brain is automatically feeling like, man, do you really want to deal with a headache again? So there were some really good VR titles like that were amazing, like Vader Immortal. If you guys, bro, that was amazing. That was my first introduction into VR, but it was probably one of the best experiences that I had. The problem is, how do you get around that? And I think the technology is finally catching up to the point where the hardware is being miniaturized enough so that you can have extended wear. And that's what I'm going to be really keying on to when it comes to Apple's product. I want to see, and same thing even with Meta, like what are some of the things that they're going to be doing to improve the feel, the make and the feel of it? Because I think the things that we saw were the clunky cell phones of 1990s. And if you look 5 years out, I think eventually it's going to get miniaturized to the point where it's just going to be like putting on a pair of glasses.
Yep,
you know,
100%. This is exactly what's going to happen. It's going to take some time, and everybody's going to say this is junk, dude. I don't know. See, when did the internet come out? What's the actual year DARPANET happened?
In the 80s.
Anyone know?
No, 70s or 80s.
70s. It was even earlier, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't usable until like 91 when Mozilla came out with their browser Mosaic or something like that. So it took. And I was on BBSs in like the 80s, the late 80s, which was barely usable, by the way. So, and nobody knew what I was doing there. Okay. So it was like the Wild West. It's the same thing. It took 10, 15 years for the actual technology to catch up to what the public needs. So similar things are going to play out here as well. Even phones, like we all picture, iPhone 2006. No, there was like 10 years of smartphones. They just sucked balls. Okay. The Palm Pilot, you guys don't remember that shit? Even Apple had some sort of Newton or whatever the hell it was called that they were trying to do. Everybody failed until they didn't. Okay, until the technology converged at a certain point, and these companies could run.
Okay, we got to transition to this one because you both, as the largest Amazon shareholders, have to make sense of this to me.
Before you move on, by the way, look at the stock price of Meta. We're closing the gap. We're moving towards 300. Just like we were talking about.
Yeah, and then it'll be $1 trillion company.
We were talking about it for like 6 months, this gap being closed.
That is true. All right. Amazon has been talking with wireless carriers about offering low cost or possibly free nationwide mobile phone service to Prime subscribers. That's over 100 million people. They're negotiating with Verizon, T-Mobile, and Dish. We haven't heard of Dish in a while to get the lowest possible wholesale prices. That would let it offer Prime members wireless plans for $10 a month. I think right now I'm paying close to like $80 to $90 for internet and phone and all that stuff. I have Prime. I would love to pay $10 a month as we have Carlos join us. So Carlos, let's start with you. Raw thoughts. Amazon getting people to pay $10 a month for phone service. You think it could work?
Oh, it's great. It's fantastic. I mean, At the end of the day, it's just access to a service. Anybody that has a phone that remembers paying long distance calls. Remember, Vitaly? Remember you have to call somebody overseas. You have to get these cards and pay $30 for like 30 minutes.
God.
The charges to call someone, and then Apple comes out with it, and you can FaceTime with someone or video chat for free.
Right.
This is honestly the way it should be, and I think it's all the companies that have that as their primary business are kind of screwed.
Hey, Vitaly, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I remember being in I forgot what island we were vacationing actually, and my mother had a serious problem. Like it was basically a heart attack, right? And I remember I didn't have a plan to contact her, and I forgot she left a message, and I got the message somehow, but I couldn't just call. I had to call AT&T first and get the $30 credit so I can call her properly through the thing. Otherwise, I'd be paying like $600 a minute or something like that.
This was what, 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
No, it's more than that. Like early 2000s. Like I remember, I would call my buddy in Ireland. He moved, and in order to call him, I'd get these cards, and you'd buy these cards that had say 30 minutes of time. What they don't tell you is $12 of that $30 is the initial connection, right? So if the call dropped, within the first minute, when you called back, they'd say you have 8 minutes remaining. And like you'd have 8 minutes left to talk, and it was like incredibly strict. Where the moment your time was up, the call just hung up, and it was just horrendous.
Insane. We used to pay for minutes. We used to literally pay for minutes of time.
Yeah,
I mean, what a scam, right? So it is. Thank goodness for Apple, for Google, for even Microsoft for coming up with Skype that basically destroyed these carriers in terms of.
And then WhatsApp really destroyed it with India, because my parents used to pay a lot to call India. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely great. Absolutely great. So this is the problem with also Amazon. The other side, I have Amazon stock, by the way. I hope they destroy everybody. But the negative of that is that if Amazon has a $10 service, it's game over. I mean, like, it's really
kind of already have that though. Like there are companies that have.
No, imagine they have a phone that's actually $10 plan. Hey, that's it. Like
me over.
Oh, sorry. What's that audio?
He's like, that's the most important thing you got to do, by the way. You got to move them over. Like,
yeah. But like if internet was unlimited for $10. And then phone and its service, right, was unlimited. That's a really, $10
compelling as hell. It's over. Yeah, it's done. It's
$10. Who wouldn't switch to that?
Hey, Amit, can you share the thing?
Depends. There's reasons why you might not.
So if
you really gotta.
So if you guys look at this. If you guys look at this,
then Chris, go ahead, Carlos, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Carlos.
No, they just have to be very clear about what you're getting for that. Is it unlimited phone calls or is it also unlimited data? Can I do video chat on that?
Oh yeah, one guy said $1,800 collect. I don't know if he said 1-800 collect, but I did. I remember getting those bills actually for hundreds of dollars when I made mistakes. Yeah. I was like, and you'd have to call. Why are you guys crazy charging this much money?
Yeah.
So if you look at this chart, this is the total cost of mobile internet on a 1 gigabyte basis around the world, right? Israel, it's only like literally 0.4 cents, which is crazy if you think about it.
That is crazy.
And then if you look at the United States, we're at $5.62. So it's not that the possibility isn't there that you could lower the prices down. It's just that we're paying for a lot of the marginal costs. So there is a profit that these companies are making. Now, the thing is, anything that's good in terms of business, if you improve the quality and improve the service, you can actually drive down costs significantly. So that's what Amazon is doing. They're driving costs down, and hopefully we can get somewhere in the industrialized world, like you see right here, like in the UK, it's 0.79 cents.
Why is Israel only 0.04 cents? Compared to
they're just very efficient with their stuff. I have no clue.
It has nothing to do with population size or anything, right?
They're the chosen people.
First of all, that's true. They are the chosen people, but it's a smaller country, man. So they just don't have to worry about the whole. I think the United States will always be a little more expensive because they have a lot of territory to cover. So the infrastructure for T-Mobile, AT&T, I mean, it's massive, like their infrastructure.
I would think same thing with India, though. India has massive amounts of land, but they're still able to provide a very low cost service. But I think someone actually
we should strive to be like India. You're right.
Yeah. Well, in terms of cell phones, yeah, they're actually ahead compared to the United States on mobile internet because they are skipping the entire copper generation. Like how like right now in the United States we had cable lines everywhere. We have fiber optic lines everywhere. We have this. India, they skipped that whole thing. They're just like straight into 5G right now. You can actually, if you look at
Yeah,
the
but they didn't have
transfer
anything
speeds,
before. Before that, it was 2
Yeah.
cups and a string. I mean, you can't.
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
everywhere.
Carrier
Yeah,
pigeon.
hey,
You know?
that's fine.
Yeah. So they're skipping an entire thing, which means that they don't have the cost overheads like a lot of our tech companies do. But if you look at the mobile internet speeds of some of these companies, man, I mean, countries, it's way better than us. Like you go to Iceland or the UK, their mobile transfer rates are, I think, like twice or 3 times as fast as us. Yeah.
I remember before I had unlimited, a data unlimited plan, I drove to Vegas one time and I was streaming Spotify from my phone, just playing Spotify, just driving to Vegas one leg. I got a bill for like $400 and something
Why?
streaming because it was data and I wasn't on an unlimited plan.
Oh,
This is when I was like, this is ridiculous. Like they're just, so I'm paying for my phone. Then I'm paying for the Spotify service. Now I'm paying AT&T to stream the Spotify service. And like, I couldn't, if I played the same song twice, I had to pay for it twice.
Why didn't you get unlimited at that time? Was it just
I don't know. At the time, I wasn't into the unlimited plan. I was happy with my plan. And all I did was get in my car and use it like I normally do. I just happened to go on a really long trip and be streaming Spotify. I didn't think that it was going to be that ridiculous. I was so pissed at that bill. You have no idea. Like,
wow, so Canada doesn't have unlimited. That's crazy.
So how did what does
that mean?
These
motherfuckers are censoring your speech, your data, your everything.
Yo, Canada is out of control right now. Canada for so many years was just like this country that was like, nothing ever happens there, right?
They were just so nice. Now they're fucking dictatorship.
Now they went to war with themselves. Yeah, it's like that goes to show you if you don't have an enemy state, you then turn on yourselves. You know,
good point.
Like the Israelis don't turn on themselves.
That's what they need.
Palestinians don't turn on themselves because they have each other. You know.
Chris, go ahead.
So someone put they get to skip ahead because of the current innovation, not because they are smarter about it. So that is partially true about with regards to India modernizing and that, but the US is still trying to fucking put copper lines everywhere. That is a business decision.
Dude, we're still trying to sell gas cars. Okay.
Yeah, it's
true.
There are countries that are skipping over entire non-traditional things, but other people are still providing legislation to build cable internet in like rural parts of the country. Why? Just give them a goddamn Tesla Starlink and call it a day.
But they don't. You know? If you don't lay the wires, who makes money on that? It was that famous thing that Thomas Edison was saying when they were going back and forth, like Nikola Tesla wanted to beam, electricity around the world, which would have never worked, by the way. Like it would have been completely unfeasible in our society. Would not be possible if he did that. But the idea was, he famously said, well, then who gets paid to like lay the cables? Right. So that's why we have cables everywhere. It's because someone has to get paid. That's a job. Right. And so
it's
wireless internet to everybody.
Yeah, it's a good thing that like countries like China are being pragmatic about it, and they're actually taking the lead on EVs. Like, I think that's one of the unfortunate things about the US. Like, if you look at how much legislation is coming around giving, Ford and GM money to our legacy auto manufacturers that are still just selling gas cars, it's like, hey, can we just utilize that money to transition into EVs? Because everyone knows that's where we're headed anyway. Why are you trying to support an industry that doesn't need the support? So I think that's where some of these other countries, they're a bit more smarter about and saying, look, we're not going to keep supporting this industry that's going away. Like, why are we trying to keep that industry alive? We should be focusing on innovation instead. I went to I told you guys, I went to a Tesla dealership today. Well, it wasn't a dealership, whatever, the showroom today. Bro, those cars are fucking awesome.
Right. We need new terminology. Dealership is no longer the term. Yeah.
What is it called?
Can you actually buy anything over there, by the way? Can you actually go, hey, I want a car? Like, well, go home and open your app, asshole.
That's literally what they tell you. Go home and order it.
Yeah. Well, no, the process, the best part about the whole thing was me and my father-in-law were talking, and we were like, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll go see a Tesla on Thursday.
TJ making the money.
It took 2 seconds. Oh, I want to go see the car, put a time in, which type of car that I wanted. Went to it. The experience was great. The guy was great. He's like, here's the card. Let me give you some basic things on what you have to do. We drove it around. It was a really good experience. The only thing that I would say was a negative is there's just so many people. There's so many fucking people trying to do that. So I sometimes felt a little bit overwhelmed,
You don't think they have how much demand?
Did you see their service center, by the way?
I didn't. It was closed.
Oh, Sunday.
So,
It's Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was closed, but essentially the car
A
was
mechanic that's closed Sunday.
yeah.
I've never heard of this actually. It's just kind of messed up.
the car was amazing. The drive was amazing.
Yo, how did you feel about there's not a brake pedal on a Tesla? How did you feel
There
about
is
that?
a brake
Of
pedal.
course there's a
There
brake
No,
is.
when
pedal.
I drove Vitaly's car, I
No,
mean, there's a
no,
brake
no,
pedal,
no,
but
no.
you
You
know,
don't
on
have
the
to use
dashboard,
it. You don't have to
You
use
don't
it.
have to use it, but it's there.
That was really weird. It was jittery when I was driving it because I was like, usually you have to press the brake lightly once you take your foot off the gas. But on the Tesla, as soon as you put your foot off the gas, it just stops.
But it slows down. You start the regen kicks in, but you can control it.
But it does it pretty quickly.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, that's kind of weird.
That part kind of felt a little freaky because I didn't drive. It was my
See?
father-in-law that
See?
drove. But it was literally like the guy said, like, look, the brakes, you'll have to replace them after 180,000 miles. And that's like, wait a second, what? On a
Nice.
normal car, you're going to replace how many times? Like at least every 50,000 miles, I would think.
probably less
Brake
than that.
pads,
Less than that.
you
man.
know, depends on your use
20,000.
cases.
I'm probably
yeah,
around 20,000 or so.
Yeah. So that's like
15,000.
the total cost of ownership on an EV is just so much better. Like I did the math. I spoke to the guy about like what the rate of charging was from home at Georgia. And it was like literally 20, 30 bucks a month. And it's like, wait, what? Like if you charge off peak and you're driving maybe 1,800 miles a month, you're looking at $30, $40. And me and my wife were calculating and she probably spends like close to $400 a month in gas. So it's like, wait,
How much?
This is-
What's
yeah.
the rate of charging? You know your cost kilowatt hours.
I
Per
think it's like
kilowatt hour?
6 cents. I think it's 6 cents overnight.
That's no way.
So yeah, you would
That's
pay. I'll
way
tell
too
you to
cheap.
fill up the Tesla is around $5 for you.
Wow.
It's around. It's
if
around
you
10
really
for me.
are getting 6 kilowatt, if you're really paying
6 cents.
6 cents
You're around
per
$5
kilowatt hour,
The whole tank, 300 miles.
the battery is 75 kilowatts, right? And you're only charging from say 20% to 70 to 80%. So you figure the most you're putting in the battery is 55 to 60 kilowatt hours per charge. At 6 cents, it's not. It's a cup. Okay, a cup of coffee that you buy while you wait for it to charge will cost you more than what it's costing you to charge the vehicle.
Here, I just did the math. It's $3.75. The whole tank.
Right. It's either that or you could sponsor a child in Ethiopia for 5 cents.
So
For
Hold on,
$3.
real quick, Chris, before you share your screen, let me just do two things. One, Tam Tran, thank you for the $5 super chat. Means a lot for my brother, Tony TT. Thanks to you for wisdom.
Yeah.
And TJ, thanks for the super chat. Thanks to Enphase Research. Sold 3 puts last week, selling another 7 this week. We will keep selling puts on Enphase until we acquire the shares, plus the CEO of Stanford Ties. Wife likes that.
Very smart.
And thank you for 440 people being here. We have hit 400.
I've been selling puts since it was $200. I mean, recently I've sold puts before, like even at 100, 130, but I've never got those shares. So I'm looking forward to the day when I get some of these shares.
You got to set the strike price so like ridiculous where you know you'll get them. You know?
Well, at
So
$200, they paid me $50 a share, so it has to hit 150, and it hit
5,000 in
152.
premium.
right, and never.
So I was
That's
like,
funny.
I don't care if I get it. If I get it, I get it. Big deal. But nope, no shares right now.
Well, look
So
at that. Yeah,
for-
you know, you're right. 7 cents per kilowatt. That's so
Yeah, for-
cheap.
look at this for
Oh
Georgia
my
Power.
God.
It's 1 penny per kilowatt hour for super off peak, which is 7 p.m. to 7
No,
p.m.
11
to 7
p.m. to
a.m.
7. So basically, yes,
Yeah.
that is so
Penny.
cheap.
Yeah. And then
That's cheap,
off
man.
peak during this. I'm telling you, look how cheap it is, right? So you just have to sign up for the
Oh
program
my
and
God.
basically you're driving for free at this point, you know.
Yeah, the 440 people, I brought them with me. You're welcome, guys.
Yeah, Carlos, we
know
we're
who
at like
support-
3
Carlos,
thrills
share your-
before you came.
share your
who's
Tesla
booing this
referral link.
channel, you know? Speaking of
Share
which,
your
we should let them know, Chris. We should do the test and see about this about streaming tomorrow, the Apple event. I have a feeling we're going to get on at 10 or 10 p.m. 10 a.m. Pacific time, and it's going to still be 2 hours before they announce the headset. So,
We may have to do it on Amit's channel because I remember when I first signed up to YouTube,
shit,
you had
yeah, they're not
you
gonna-
had to wait 24 hours. So we didn't
Why
do
don't
it
you just
yet
use
for Finance
StreamYard,
Junkies.
Carlos? I don't understand.
no, it's about streaming to the new Finance Junkies
Yeah.
channel. It's not about.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, if it
You
look
can do
worst
that
case
for
scenario,
finance, too.
Amit could set it up, but then Amit, how are you going to get your fix? Like you can't stream to
No, you
same. Can you?
I'm gonna stream anytime, all day.
No,
every day.
I might be busy tomorrow. You guys can stream. I just won't be there. That's fine. You can still
Yeah.
use. I'll set it up and you join, and then I'll.
Yeah,
leave.
you guys can collect
Okay.
super chats for me all day long.
You can either do it on
Well, we're
freelance
collecting
finance or
super
my
chats
channel.
for
It's up to you
Amit.
guys.
Yeah.
All right, we've got someone in the back who is here to ask a question. I'm putting the link to ask questions in the chat. Wong,
Oh, he's back.
I'm telling you,
You're
we have a
back.
rotation of like 4 people.
I know this is a little ridiculous. It's
Uh,
basically like we gotta just
So-
call somebody out. Johnny
so-
boy, get on the thing. Come on,
ask
Johnny
a
boy.
question
Yeah,
live.
Johnny, why don't you get on
before-
live,
Rubio.
man?
Jorge Rubio says he's so bullish on Tesla. Tell me why you're bullish. Invisible voices. Have a visible face.
You guys don't
Come on.
understand. We need you.
What's going
so if you
on,
don't come
man?
live, we
What's going on?
can't
We're calling
survive.
you out, man.
But
Deck
Wong, we're
convicted.
happy you're
What's
here.
up?
Don't worry, the next caller is my mom. So-
Okay.
All right,
So
what's up, bro?
I guess I'm not sure if you guys talked about this before, but is there anything important in due diligence that helped you guys improve your performance? Like, have you done anything in your due diligence that you think should be important for retail traders?
I'm gonna limit this to
Mature-
5 minutes, so we move on.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Learn about maturity walls. Learn about maturity walls.
Is that like a
Maturity
brick wall
walls.
or something?
Yes, they're brick walls that are made of maturity.
I want to say,
So,
Wong, you have a better brick wall than
No, he
our
doesn't. No, he
host.
doesn't. You think his
Oh,
brick
yeah,
wall
it's
is more
totally
real than
real.
mine?
It's totally real.
His hand is blending into the brick wall, and you're
I just got out of Mario Brothers, and it looked like
Oh
I
my
literally
gosh.
wanted to punch the.
wow, you guys are ridiculous, bro.
Oh, that's
It's-
funny.
Man.
All right, go ahead,
So-
Chris.
I'll quickly explain what a maturity wall is. You know, all businesses have some level of debt. Some businesses have more debt than others because of just how their capital is allocated. So sometimes what happens is you have a lot of debt that's becoming due in a certain period of time. So if the company is smart, what they do is they layer their debt so that you don't have a lot of debt coming right away. You know, every year you have a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, but sometimes they go a little bit too crazy with their capital in previous CEO, and now you have a debt, like a wall of debt coming. So it's almost like in 2023 some companies have so much debt that's incoming. The rates in 2022 and 2021 were super cheap. They were like 1%, 2%, 3%. So they were paying on a corporate side maybe 4% or 5% on their corporate debt. But if you have a debt maturity wall in 2025 where you have to refinance, let's say $20 billion, and now you have to pay 8% to 10% on that corporate debt, that is going to kill your margins and kill your profitability, in which case now your stock is going to tank. So that's one of those things that if you just go to like the SEC filings for the company, you can actually see where the debt is and where it matures and how they're dealing with that debt maturity, which I don't think a lot of retail investors do. But that's a really key thing that people should learn how to do, which is look at the debt of a company and see how it is. It may look nice, like, oh yeah, they're paying their debt, it's fine. Their liabilities, their assets is perfect. But the minute you look at that debt maturity wall and the cost of having to refinance, it might tanking their business. You want to get out early before that wall comes.
That's good. I don't think a lot of people talk about that. That's good.
Yeah, I have no idea about
Check
that.
and honestly, check the insider information as well. I always try to get in there and see what the insiders are doing.
I mean, it's strictly about just picking your 5 horses and doing as much work on them over a long period of time. Like I'm still buying Enphase, and the first time I bought it was $20. So, and Tesla too. The first time I bought that was a $40 billion market cap, and now it's, I don't know, 600 billion. And I'm still sort of DCAing, not every day, but so my point is this belief in the company doesn't come in a day. So some people go all in right away. I actually don't believe in that. You just buy it over time, and if you do enough research, you do enough homework, you believe in the narrative, and if you have 5 of those narratives, hopefully one of them hits. Like you don't need all 5 to win. That's what I keep going back to. You just need one of them.
Okay. Sounds good, Wong. Thank you
All right.
again for joining.
Yo, thank you guys.
All right. We have no one else in the back, so I think the last
Well, Unity.
segment-
I do want to talk about Unity just
You
for
wanna
a
do
second.
Unity
Just
real quick?
asking,
Okay,
hey
I
guys,
was gonna
thoughts
do
on
another
Unity.
topic as well. All right, go ahead. Unity.
I think it's one of the stocks in the market that is not being priced in terms of their AI, because they do have a cloud thing that's happening. I think it's called Barracuda or something, where all of this content that NVIDIA showed off too, they're working on creating stories and characters and narratives all in the background using LLMs. So they're going to have a massive play in this AI space. And I don't think anybody's actually paying attention to
I'll tell
Unity doing
you,
that.
Unity is going to program 90% of the games that are going to be on Apple's iPad.
Exactly. That's the other thing.
Like as soon as that thing's on all
of them,
games,
all
they're not-
VR.
Yeah, well, all VR, but there are like, you know, that there's tiers to this, right? Like, and like higher end games are probably not going to be on the Apple headset. That's
Yeah.
going to be strictly a what you call it?
Well,
a Quest
PCs.
thing.
Those are usually PCs or Xbox 360s.
PCs,
or
yeah,
Xbox
high-end
Ones or
PCs that can
whatever.
handle that. Those are like the real deep gamers that want like high frame rate, super high resolution, right. But that's not what Apple's going to be going for. So Unity's market space is about to explode once Apple announces a developer kit for that.
I think Unity is a big beneficiary that I'd be shocked if we stick around this $30 for let's say at least another year. I'm pretty sure people are gonna realize what's up with Unity at some point.
Okay. Last segment I think we want to do is this one because we talked about it for a while. I don't know if you guys got a chance to catch this, but this is Cathie Wood explaining her thesis on Zoom. And I want to watch it. It's like 2-3 minutes just to see, are we missing anything? Because again, she has a bull case or a base case of 1,500 by 2026. So maybe it does warrant a little bit of due diligence.
Also covering Tesla.
Primarily.
Cathie, I have to ask you. I know we're running towards
Do like 1.5 speed.
I got to ask you about Zoom
Yes.
because I don't understand it, and obviously you know the stock a lot better than we do. But Zoom seems to have been killed by Google Meet. Me personally, when I sent a calendar invite, I was only a Zoom user. Now I switched to Google Meet. And the company just reported a couple weeks ago, and they're just not really growing.
Even internally, Salesforce now owns Slack. When we're gonna we have 58 employees. They're all over the country. We're constantly doing impromptu video meets. It's so easy to hit the huddle button in Slack, as opposed to going to Zoom, scheduling a new meeting, adding people's email addresses.
So Zoom is the second biggest holding in the innovation fund.
Right.
And what are we missing?
Well, what you were focused on are intra-company dynamics. This is inside your companies. If you look at the share of traffic inter-company, you'll find that, and I think this is it Sensor Tower data? It's one of those services. You'll find that Zoom is at roughly 40%. Microsoft is, I think, at 16%. Microsoft is
Teams is offensively bad.
Yeah,
Teams want you to they want you to download an app before a meeting.
Restart your computer.
Yeah. Anyway, this is at 16. Google Meet is low single digits, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm contrarian.
So yes, you're a contrarian. We like contrarian.
So Zoom still has its share.
It has its share.
But they're
Now,
not really growing
critical
that
to them, they have a partnership with Salesforce.com, right? What happens inter? Inter is where the sales take place.
One
right?
company to another.
Yes. Now that's very
Or one
high value,
organization to
very
another.
high value add. Now, if you look at the talent that Zoom is attracting, they just attracted someone who had spent 16 years at Google.
Real quick, for those that didn't understand, intra is like you're Zooming with a friend or Zooming with a fellow salesperson inside of your organization.
People who don't know English. That's what you're explaining.
Inter, because I was confused by this a little bit. Well, inter is like, I want to sell, my software to Apple. So I need to Zoom with an Apple person, right? So we have a conversation. So not inter the company or intro the company, but inter the company. That's where Zoom has 40% of enterprise communications across the entire market, which is Cathie's bull case here.
This is she's the chief product officer. 16 years at Google. I think it was 9 months at Microsoft, and came over to Zoom. So we watch management. We watch where talent goes. They've attracted people from Google, Microsoft, Amazon, many of the other companies. They've got this, I would say, moat. It's theirs to lose on the inter, and they're about to launch a bunch of AI products, and they brought people in to help. Now we're looking very carefully at that to be sure. Eric Yuan is the founder. He founded WebEx. Cisco bought WebEx. If you think about
the original video conference software,
which has no share now.
Yeah.
So he knew that enterprise communications was going to move from on-prem hardware oriented into the cloud.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a $1.3 trillion line item. It is the largest part of the tech stack, enterprise communications. It's moving into the cloud, and who's going to be at the center of this? It will be Microsoft because of Teams and all the enterprises they have. They don't want to be hostage to Microsoft. You have to have some redundancy, so even they will have a failover to something, and others just don't want Microsoft, as you were saying. So this is Zoom's to lose. Now, if they are not, I can tell they have a lot going on, and we're putting a high weight on Eric and the team's ability to activate AI within this ecosystem in a provocative way that helps companies increase their productivity and accelerate sales.
She still hasn't explained. Like, people say AI now, like they used to say HD when it first came out. HD this, HD that. It's like what?
4K.
Okay, right. 4K.
But AI
like,
is real.
Okay,
We know
what
AI
is
is
that?
real.
I understand AI is
4K,
real.
man.
I understand AI is real, but she hasn't explained how AI. What is Zoom going to do with AI that's going to make their market?
Well,
share
she's
grow?
trusting Eric figures it out. So
I don't buy it.
Well, okay. So even if she's right, by the way, let's 10th man this shit, right? So
yes, sir.
even if she's right, Zoom is a commodity. So the actual product is everybody's going to have. So how are they going to stick out unless there's a network effect, as we keep talking about these network effects? But that's not, I mean, eventually you don't care if you're on Zoom or if you don't care if you're on, I don't care if I'm on Google Meet or Teams, and I use all of them with different production companies. I don't care which one is used. There's nothing that's sticky about one or the other. In fact, StreamYard is better than all of them. So I don't think Cathie's thinking about that it just won't matter because it's going to be so cheap or free.
You don't think the
basically.
inter to intra dynamic in Zoom having the largest market share at all is a
No,
moat?
I think it's good for Zoom to be a good company and make money, but it's still an expensive company, and it's not going to get her $1,500 stock price. That's all I'm saying, that it's still a good company. It's still going to print, but it's just not going to do what she's saying.
Chris,
So-
any thoughts?
From a free cash flow perspective, they're doing okay. They've got about $1 billion in free cash flow. I'm looking at just the revenue numbers. Those are just slowed down significantly.
Yeah.
They've pretty much leveled off,
Yep.
which is a problem. They do have a lot of cash on the balance sheet. They have almost $5.6 billion in cash, which is good because if you look at their total market cap is 19 billion, right? So that's good. Liabilities are relatively low. They're only about 1.8 billion. So in terms of a business, this is a good business. The only thing is, it's still based on current valuations, given a multiple that may be a little bit higher than what's necessary. I think that this could definitely be a solid buy if it was low enough, maybe like in the 30s. But at this point, I wouldn't touch it. I think there's better things out there in the market. Yeah, their net income has dropped off significantly. Like during COVID, their net income was close to 1.4 billion. Now it's dropped down to like the single digit millions.
Well, here's a question.
yeah,
Forget about COVID.
yeah.
What happened right before COVID? What happened before COVID hit the year before? How was Zoom doing?
Not good. They weren't doing much.
So
They
now
weren't
they're
doing
doing
much.
better. So it's a good business once again.
Yeah.
So that's my
before
point.
COVID.
The
Hold on,
thing
but
is,
it-
it kind of, yeah.
It's a good business because it filled a need that was necessary in this new world where we couldn't communicate or we couldn't go to the office.
Yeah.
Then a bunch of other companies just came in and swooped in. You know, the guy himself, one of the guys on the panel made a great point. Like even me, I wasn't a big fan of Slack, but as more companies forced me to use it, now I kind of like it. And I hate the freaking Slack huddles. I hate them, but people just keep inviting me to them. And now I just keep using them. And I don't like them, but they do kind of work, right? And if you need a quick video chat or a quick phone call, it kind of works, man. Like I can't see the bull case to have to go out of it, even though Zoom is an app that works within Slack. So I don't know what that guy was talking about. You don't need to leave Zoom to get. You don't need to.
Yeah.
It's a plugin. It is a plugin.
Yeah,
The-
it's a
the
plugin,
good-
so you don't need
yeah.
to leave Slack
The
to
good-
use it. But
The good thing about Zoom that I find versus something like Microsoft Teams, I fucking hate Teams. All right.
me too.
You
I
can-
fucking hate
I-
it.
Why? Why do you guys hate Teams? So
Well,
much?
you see, it doesn't matter if
so
you hate it or
annoying.
not. The point is all of them are used, and
Yeah.
that's the point. And Microsoft is basically bundling it all in and giving it to you almost for nothing right now, because if you're getting Office 365, you're just getting all of it for free. Okay.
Yeah.
And Slack and CRM actually owns it, Salesforce. It's bundled in once again. Zoom's only product is Zoom. They need something
That's
else.
true.
that's the
They're
problem.
doing a Zoom metaverse.
But also,
stuff
like
to be-
you know, Vitaly
to
mentioned
know.
Skype, right? You mentioned Skype, and that was the shit back in the
That was the
day.
shit, yeah.
Yeah.
And then one
Microsoft bought
day-
it for $8 billion, I think.
then it
or
just
something?
but then it just disappeared. This is the problem with it. It's like when you have like this software thing like this, it's I don't know, it's so easy to build this technology, and you have it free on WhatsApp. I have some companies that I work for. It is annoying, but I have some companies that I work for that insist on doing everything on WhatsApp. They don't want to pay for Slack. They don't want to pay for everything. So it's inconvenient, but they still use Slack for everything. I mean, they use WhatsApp for everything, and it's free.
Basically, this is
I don't know.
transitioned from a growth company to a value company, but the
Awkward
value
dividend,
is
man.
still not there. But it's still not there yet. It's still
Yeah.
not a value company. And the fact that like they're
But
not,
Chris, I'm confused. That's the second biggest thing in her fund. What do you think is going to happen to ARC if it does become a value company and Zoom doesn't grow? It's the second biggest. It's almost $1
I don't
billion.
know, same-
Depends on the dividend.
same thing. Yeah, same thing that
Another
happens to any.
Cathie's a
Same thing
dividends
that happens to any.
investor.
Yeah, same thing that happens to anything that Cathie buys. She sells. That's it. You know,
Yeah,
how many
she'll sell
times
it.
does she always say, I think Palantir is going to be the next big thing? And then a couple of months later, she was selling out of the position.
So,
right?
so Cathie's making
And-
a
and
bet that,
that-
Zoom will
yeah.
transition into something else. The point is, Zoom has not even shown that they are transitioning into something else. Once they do that, I mean, she could be right, first of all, but we don't know what it could become. We just don't know that. But right now, $1,500 is
yeah.
insane price target.
the logic that she used was, well, they're hiring really smart people. That means that we should invest in them. Like, what? Just because someone worked at Google
that was
6 months
weird.
ago doesn't mean that this company is going to be the next Google. That's not how shit works. You know,
No.
it's not like a restaurant where you hire Bobby Flay and automatically your business goes up 10x.
Look, I
you
also,
know?
I don't know about you. I'm sure you guys are on these things every day. Even if they said to me, wow, you can have Zoom now with 4K quality, like that's not going to make, that's not what I'm on there for. Like, I can't imagine what they would offer me to justify more money, you know, a higher charge to me per month. There's like, it already fills exactly what I needed to do perfectly. Right. And actually, once Zoom allowed me to control other people's computers, that was the final thing. Like, I used to have to use other, like join.me, other things to be. Now you just go on Zoom, you request access to the other person's computer, you can sign in, you can stream stuff. And actually, if you think about it, out of all of the streaming service, or like the streaming video chat services, Zoom is the worst when you're trying to stream video. So it's the most lag. So when I'm trying to control a computer on the other end, it's the worst experience over any of the other ones. Even though I know
why doesn't Zoom do what StreamYard's doing or buy StreamYard? Like, wouldn't in content creation, wouldn't that be a huge market?
They should.
Honestly, Meta or Apple should buy Zoom. It's $20 billion.
That's true, bro.
Pocket change,
I don't
dude.
understand why they don't buy this and just control that whole ecosystem, add it to their thing, and be done with this.
Do you think the
stupid
regulators
nonsense.
would let one of them buy Zoom?
Why not?
That's a good question. That's a good
Well,
question.
I think yes, because look, Microsoft has its own streaming product. Google has its own stream. It'd be like, this is nothing.
That's them consolidating. That's like Netflix buying Paramount or something, right? It's kind of.
Didn't Amazon just buy a studio? So I think the Zoom thing is not a problem. I mean, they might have a problem with Meta buying anything, obviously, but if Apple bought Zoom, I don't think it'd be even looked at.
And Apple has not. What's the last blockbuster acquisition, ironically, that Apple has ever had?
I don't think
I can't remember it.
They don't really.
Apple does
Nuts
not.
got Instagram and WhatsApp under his
Apple
belt.
typically doesn't acquire companies like that. Like, the last major one that I can remember was Newsstand. That was actually huge. That was a big acquisition. Newsstand was so Newsstand was an app it used to be an app, a standalone company, and it was that app where you would click on it and you tell it your interest, and it would basically collect and parse the internet and show you like a customized news feed. They built that in, and that's actually what Apple News is now. The guy that ran Apple, that ran the news app, sued Apple for that, and he lost. But that's what Apple does really well, is if they see somebody that has a great app that has that uses the iPhone in a cool way, like good functionality, they'll just build it into
they
the
steal your
system.
shit. That's what they do.
And they this was it. Yeah, this was it. And
the other thing
it was great, Apple, and it works great now too. Still,
Apple tends to go after really small companies with innovative products at a very early stage. They don't even let
Beats. I forgot Beats. Yeah,
they do not let anyone become a competitor. So basically, they see you have a good product, they'll buy you out at a very early stage. And they actually, they're serial acquirers. They acquire a lot of shit. It's just that they do it at such a small, at the most bottom level.
You never even hear about it. Yeah, you never. Yeah, Beats was another massive one, and Beats came with a lot of real estate too. Like, when I had a meeting with Apple, we went to the Beats building in California, in my area, because Apple didn't have a headquarters here, so I went to the Beats headquarters, and you wouldn't even have known that it was the Beats building.
Okay, so here's the last question to end out, because we're at an hour now. Thank you, 473 people, for being here and starting your week with us. Really appreciate it. We'll be back every 10 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Thursday. What is the most contrarian acquisition you can think of that sounds ridiculous? It could be any company buying any company, but it does have some logic if we think deep enough. So give yourself 10 seconds. I want the chat to think about it as well. Contrarian, Apple buying Disney, something crazy. That's like, and forget the regulators for a second. Forget regulators don't exist. That would make a lot of sense. But initially, you kind of scratch your head and you're like, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense.
What's your question again?
So what's an acquisition you would want to see?
Now ask the same question again the way Carp would ask it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the philosophical architecture that grounds the foundational understanding of acquisitions, that permeates one company into another company, that establishes a pre-epidural understanding. I don't even know if that's a word, but
epidural.
All right, so I'm going to use the chat until you think of it.
I think the real John George actually answered it. If Meta or Apple buy Unity.
Okay. So Vitaly, are you locking in? This is your final answer, because you have to then explain it.
My final answer.
Okay, you go explain. Chris and Carlos, you should be thinking. Go ahead.
What do I have to explain?
Explain why Apple should buy Unity.
Are you crazy? Basically, we talked about this. They own 3/4 of like all the games and all the apps being made on the iOS device. Why wouldn't you buy it?
Okay.
And not only that, it's another ecosystem. Apple loves ecosystems. You get to sell the assets, you get to sell the ads, and their ad thing never worked. And Unity's ad thing is working. Okay. So there's so many reasons for them to own Unity and Meta too. I'm surprised nobody has tried to acquire them. I bet you there was talks in the background that were happening, and maybe they got nixed somehow, but that would be just a killer move. Or Epic Games, by the way. If Apple or Meta can buy Epic Games too and control that engine, that's also
it would be honestly, it would be Meta before Apple. Apple hates the Epic guys hate Apple, and Apple hates them. So it would
well,
be Meta.
whoever.
Look,
enough money gets thrown around. Okay, so they will be selling out like crazy.
Okay, Chris, do you have an acquisition? That's Contrarian.
Amazon buying Paramount. Because one, takes out a competitor. Two, you get a shit ton of content library, and you get a lot of the Paramount's like local, like more like what's the word? More like
But don't you think they would be overpaying for all that content?
Well, that wasn't your
No, the
question,
problem is
bro.
the debt.
Admit that wasn't your question.
in terms of business, the problem with Paramount is that they have a
Amazon
fuck
buys
ton of debt. That's the problem with Paramount. Paramount has a shit ton of debt. Because remember, you have Paramount was a merger between Viacom and Paramount. So you have huge content library, but they overpaid in terms of debt. So they have a lot of debt on their books too. So.
Oh, I like this one. Tesla buys Enphase.
But
like
Carlos,
that.
what's yours? Were you gonna say
Well,
this
I mean,
one?
someone kind of stole mine. I was gonna make a joke. Who said it? Someone said, oh yeah, Paul Richardson at 803. He was like, Tesla builds nuclear power plants. I was going to say Tesla buys ExxonMobil, like for the real estate.
What?
Because if they buy them for the real estate, then they can put all of their supercharge. You know what I mean? It becomes
All over the world.
But that wouldn't be the one. Actually, one that I think could kind of make sense is if Apple bought Spotify. I think
That's a
that would
good
be-
one.
That would
That's
be
a
good
good
because
one.
Spotify
Yep.
is what iTunes, they've tried to make it. I'm sorry.
They
And the
suck.
music
It
app
sucks.
sucks. Nobody uses Apple Music. If you do, I feel sorry for you. Spotify is the winner. It's the best. If they bought that, that would be what Apple wants.
Now, what's the logic behind it? Just to acquire those users? That's it?
No, it's because, well, it's to acquire the users and monetize.
No,
them
it's
in
to
a way
lock
that-
in the users they already have, not to acquire. It's to make sure the users they already have go nowhere else.
But
Once
Spotify-
Cancel Spotify
is
from
part of
Android
there.
devices if they buy them. What if they
Say that
like?
again?
What if they stop Spotify on Android if they buy the company? And like if you love Spotify, you better buy a fucking iPhone. Like, that would be-
No, but I'm saying we're already in the Apple ecosystem. Most of us, like, I already have my photos there. Imagine my Spotify account is there. My banking is there. Like, obviously,
Spotify is just so good. It actually feels like a social media. It actually feels like a social media network. Even though I don't use it that much, just the very little bit that I use, it feels like what I think they've always wanted iTunes or Apple Music to be. And Apple Music is horrendous. I tried so many times to like it. It's horrible.
SoFi
YouTube
acquires
music is better. I
Odea.
don't-
SoFi acquires
Or
Odea.
this one, Pounder should buy a mid. Oh, they should compensate something, bro. They should give me something.
Amazon buying UMG. That's another one. Content libraries of content.
But that means
is the key.
Amazon would control the best music in history. It would be under one company's control. That'd be a
Well,
big-
Prime,
but
baby.
Well,
No,
I
but
think,
it
I
would
think
be a member.
Paramount. I think your Amazon Paramount might actually come true. By the way, I think that is a real possibility.
Why?
Or outright buying Netflix.
Well, no, they already bought MGM. I think someone mentioned MGM, but
Yeah.
it's just so obvious to control that IP. And someone also said they own Star Trek, which, I mean, that's Amazon would want to own that. Like, it's just a no-brainer to own it.
Okay, I'll name one. Here's one that's super contrarian, that doesn't deal with regulators, but it would be really a good move, most likely.
Mhm.
YouTube buys TikTok. Could you imagine if YouTube
But it's not
took out
possible.
the second biggest video app on the world,
Yeah.
integrated it into Google? Google search gets more life with Gen Z. And you've got shorts can go away. They can stop shorts because no one fucking uses that shit. And it doesn't give you any views. It's just not good. And they can just put all their energy into TikTok and they can monetize the fuck out of TikTok. Because the problem with shorts is most people just don't click on it because of the thumbnails, right? That's what gets your attention. Whereas TikTok, you just get the videos. If there were no regulators and they take it away from China, imagine YouTube owning TikTok.
Right, but because of the fact that it's the China part.
Yeah,
Like,
they would have to
they just
acquire it
can't-
from China. They would have
That's
to
what I'm
acquire
saying, and that would never happen. They can't.
No,
go
no,
and
but
acquire it.
but
That's why
stretching
it
it out
wasn't even
there,
on my radar.
I could see a good case to buy for Google to own it, and so
Even if it costs $100 billion. I mean, TikTok
Yeah.
is the thing for Gen Z. It's like you know, I know we got Reels, but TikTok is the shit still.
Yep.
You know,
I think that'd be a massively great acquisition for them, or Meta to buy TikTok,
or Meta.
one or the other.
Well, the plus side of that would be that the info and the data would finally be on the state side. That's what I think people's big problem with it. It's not that it's eroding the brains of the Gen Z. Fuck all that. It's
You
that
know,
our
that's
data, they know where the fuck I am. That's the real problem here.
Yes.
But yeah.
All right, guys.
All right, that's it for us. I'm putting the Freelance Finance Discord in the chat, so those who want to talk Enphase, Enovix, and honestly any other stock, they have a ton of channels on their Discord, so I'm sending that right now. You guys can join it.
I remember Vine. Vine was fucking awesome. Persian
Twitter botched that, bro. Twitter absolutely botched that.
Well, that was back in the day. Vine will come back. I promise you. Vine will come back. And Periscope.
It's
we
called
already see
TikTok.
coming back.
That's what they called it now.
Well, let's see what Elon can
Yeah,
do.
but TikTok is longer form. This was like the 6 second.
6 seconds.
It was just so genius that it was 6 seconds.
You can't
It
do anything
really-
in 6 seconds, dude.
can't do anything. I
It
mean.
buys bricks.
Ask
I'm gonna
your
get
wife.
bricks from
Oh,
Oh, what the fuck was that?
come on, that was a good one. Come on. Can't do
All
anything
right.
in 6 seconds.
This was great. Thank you all for being here. We will see you tomorrow night. Got a lot to
No,
talk
no,
about.
no. We'll see you tomorrow at what
10
is it?
a.m.
What
at
time?
10 a.m.
1
Pacific
p.m.
Pacific time. 10
Time,
a.m.
which is-
Pacific time, which
So
is
it's at 1 p.m. on the East Coast,
Eastern.
and we're probably going to be on for 2 hours waiting for this thing to be announced, and we'll have.
It might be a revolutionary a day for Apple. I mean, it might really change. And Carlos has those calls on Apple, so it might print for you.
Yeah,
Pornhub
they're already
buys
up
Odea.
30%. Listen,
Pornhub
they're
buys
already up
Odea.
30%. Maybe should have sold them on Friday.
Yeah, yeah,
but-
yeah. Wouldn't that be funny? Pornhub buys OD, and all you hear is like, oh, an audio. Oh,
Erotic, you know, erotic audio is a big thing. Erotic,
Erotic
audio
audio.
is like huge. There's a huge.
I
market.
can't, dude. You talking about VR headsets? Imagine the porn you're gonna be able to buy and watch.
What are you
Like,
talking
imagine
about? That's why
OnlyFans.
Vitaly can't make it on the chat.
I've told you multiple times. I've tried it. It's
Look at Wong audio.
that's right, Wong, baby.
All right,
You
Wong.
know,
We
you
know you
know.
get down. We know what you be listening to.
And by the way, Meta released an upgrade. I was playing it today. They actually have perfect hand tracking now to control the menus.
Really?
So there's other things you can do with these puppies.
This is disgusting. I'm sorry. This is gross.
WWDC Aztec. We're gonna cover it live.
Oh,
and, we'll
man.
discuss it. And if I can't make it, Chris and Carlos will be there, but we'll see what happens.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
See
We'll
you
see you
tomorrow.
tomorrow. Have a good one, everybody.
All
Good night.
right,
Bye.